So today, Sachi and myself are going to be talking about Reiki. I had my very first ever experience with Reiki with Katya. It was probably within the month that I realized that I actually had PTSD and that it was going to be this bigger thing that I had initially acknowledged. And I found it really powerful because I think at that stage I was quite deficient with my energy and feeling quite low. So how did you find out about Reiki and get into it?
I had I guess I had an intuition that this was something that I wanted to do. And I thought before I learned how to do it I should go and try it out myself. So I went and saw a woman, Anne Kerwin, she's in Mount Eden, and I had a Reiki session with her, and it was a little bit confronting actually. I thought that it would be, you know, nice and relaxing and you'd lie back, and my body reacted to the Reiki quite strongly, which I wasn't expecting. You know, my chest kind of rose up, my back arched a bit, my neck arched, and lots of yawning. I don't know if you experienced that. Yeah, so it was a bit more full on than I thought it would be, and again I was at a similar stage to you where I probably hadn't acknowledged, and to be honest I'm still not sure what's going on for me, but I hadn't explicitly acknowledged I had trauma, I need to deal with it. It was more an intuition that I need some kind of help, and also maybe I will want to provide this kind of help in that. So, yeah.
When I had my Reiki session with Katya, the thing that I remember her talking about with me was that usually, and you know, I'm still kind of learning about the chakras and those sorts of things, but typically there's maybe like the core chakra where you can try to warm people up. It's like the spot where a lot of the energy gets held. And she had said to me that I was one of the only people that she'd ever done Reiki on that she actually couldn't warm up, that I was ice cold.
Oh, that's interesting.
And the room that we were in there were 2 heaters on. It was the middle of winter, but there were 2 heaters on, and I was covered in blankets. So it just goes to show you that, and at the end I did tell her after she had said that to me that I actually was cold, which I found quite bizarre. But I think one of the things that is really important when you go down the road of getting different types of therapies is being open to it.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, cut to 2 years prior, I would have kind of felt like that was a bit too out there for me.
Me too.
Yeah. And quite interestingly, it was like getting a massage kind of. I personally felt that something from my body had happened in that session, had shifted, and I can't quite articulate that, but it was very strong.
Yeah. Did it feel a little bit like kind of waves of warmth and waves of energy?
Not so much the warmth aspect, but the way it was done is with the hands kind of over your body, and it felt like when you drop a rock into water and it kind of reverberates.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Yeah.
And I don't know what I thought it was going to feel like, but I thought, wow, you can actually feel that energy coming from the other person.
You can.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I'm not sure if it's energy from that other person, if that other person is a conduit to the energy that's out there. You know, a lot like when we are in our yoga class and Kati is talking about the energy that comes up from the ground or the energy that comes down from the sky. And I think it's really important to note that it could well be your own body participating in the healing activity.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is right or wrong, but I strongly feel it's not somebody healing somebody else, it's a mutual healing activity where your body comes to the play as well.
Yeah, and I think one of the other things that I remember around that time, just sort of separate, not really having to deal with PTSD, but watching documentaries on water, and we've talked about this before, how, you know, putting a positive or a negative word can change the molecular makeup of water or something else. And so I guess having another person have some sort of positive interaction with your body when you're in such a negative state is also powerful in itself.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Because the other thing to remember is that this is only part of you, you know, and it can be overwhelming. The trauma can be really overwhelming, and like sometimes, actually someone described it to me really well the other day. It's like you've got a backpack on, and sometimes the backpack full of rocks is quite light and you can carry it on, but it's always there. And sometimes, you know, it just absolutely crushes you and you've got to crawl along. But my point is that there are always all of these other aspects of you that aren't hurting, that are waiting for the opportunity to help you heal.
Yes. And I think I may have said this in one of the other videos. I remember at one of the support group sessions that we had where someone said to me that they could tell that I hadn't accepted it yet, that I hated myself. I hated this new version of myself, and they had been battling with that same thing but had sort of come to the other side of it. And I guess in my journey where I'm at now, I can acknowledge that. I can acknowledge that I'm still there. I'm still in here. I'm definitely changed, and I probably always will be. And there's something about getting to the point where you can accept that. But that the old me is still in there too. And I think when you're, you know, traumatized or you live with PTSD, you can quite easily focus on what's going wrong for yourself, because it feels like a lot.
It's unrelenting.
It's so exhausting. It's unrelenting. Sometimes, you know, we've talked about you kind of feel like you're making progress and then you take 10 steps back, and there's something in that of feeling defeated in some respects as well.
Yeah. Well, I had a panic attack come into yoga a couple of weeks ago, and after thinking that I had nailed it. Yeah, I felt really defeated, and that part that you talk about, for me, I've always thought of it as this like Nostradamus-like character, which is a hunchback and just kind of dragging this bastard around with me.
Yeah.
But then the outside world doesn't see any of that, you know.
No.
They see quite an articulate, put-together woman, and I am those things as well. But yeah, I think it's a commonality that a lot of us have, and it can make you feel really defeated.
That's right. And I guess that's why, for me, you know, providing these videos is so important, is because, yes, that Reiki session for me was exactly what I needed at the time. It was quite beneficial, and you know, yours was confronting in a different way, and perhaps it was beneficial, or maybe it brought up some things.
It was definitely beneficial. I would say it was either the first or the second step that I took towards getting help out of the biomedical framework.
Yeah.
Because the biomedical framework, I feel, has failed me, even though it saved my life.
Yeah.
And a lot of my illnesses, I think, are the body's manifestation of the pain that I didn't have the emotional literacy to understand or process.
Yes.
So the first steps that I took outside that traditional framework, we're talking about going to the GP and getting antidepressants or asthma medication, or you know, there's a lot of, or seeing a traditional psychologist, which was not something that I enjoyed at all, actually. But the first thing I did, and it was a lot like the Reiki, and it might actually be something you want to explore, was a spiritual healing, because I felt in distress. I felt like my soul was in distressed because I didn't know what it was. I didn't have any other names or words for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that and that helped. And then I did the Reiki and it helped.
Mm-hmm.
But both of the healing modalities made me feel like I did not understand the depth or breadth or length of what was wrong, and it wasn't going to be an easy fix.
Yeah.
But I do believe, and actually I'm not even thinking that, like, maybe fixing is the wrong word. The word that I would want to use is integrate. So I never integrated this into my psyche, into my personality, and that's the route that I'm going now. Maybe you can't fix it, but you can integrate it, and it makes you part of who you are. It makes you that compassionate, empathetic, healing person.
Yeah, and so the thing, with speaking to you having that spiritual experience and all that, for some people, seeing a psychotherapist is actually extremely beneficial. I know we have members in the yoga community that feel that way, or perhaps craniosacral therapy has been the thing that's really helped someone, or tapping. And so anytime we share anything, my experience, your experience, any of our experiences, it is just to say that there are a variety of options out there.
Very much so, very much so.
And what works for you will be different than what works for myself or for yourself. And, well, it's a fingerprint, isn't it? So for all of us, our trauma and our PTSD resonates with us in a different way. Like, I get really bad flashbacks. You get really bad panic attacks. So that's why so many times we've talked about if there could just be a cure for all of us. This, you find out, okay, if you do A, B, C, that's that. Great. You've spent the money, you've done ABC, now you're 100% back on track. It just doesn't work like that. And so that's why we're doing these educational videos, so that we can all understand what the options are, who can provide them, what they're like, what it looks like, and then for others to go down the road of figuring out what's going to work for them. Yeah. Because there is hope. And I've only recently, I've only recently, got to the point where I've accepted it. I'm ready to now do sort of the next phase. Yeah. Because accepting it took me 3 years to get to the point to accepting it. And it could have taken me 15, it could have taken me 25, it could have taken me 40. Yeah. And there is no right way to go about doing any of these things except for honoring how difficult it is for yourself and just holding on to the little bit of hope that you might be able to have to move you on to the next thing that might actually work for you.
And I think that I would just say one more thing about that, and that is we are the experts on ourselves. Yes. And even though you don't know what's going on in the beginning, or even if you've tried to shut it off, if you come to that place where you acknowledge that you've got a problem and you acknowledge that you want help, the help that you want, just like what you say, it's a fingerprint. And you have to listen to that little voice in your head and listen to that little voice and go with your gut. And really start to trust that you are the expert on what's going on with you, and your body communicates. Yes. And so learning to listen to your body and what it wants, and even your intuition maybe, that's a really powerful step for a lot of us, where our bodies have just become something we view with uncertainty, or our bodies let us down, or in my case that's how I feel. I feel betrayed by my body a lot, but actually my body is trying to communicate with me.
I'm glad that you said that, because that was another really big aspect for me. I think in the beginning, anger really stood in the way of my recovery. Anger in the fact that no one knew, it felt that way. My GP didn't know how to help me. I didn't know where the resources were. Everything felt way too expensive for my salary. And I just sort of felt like, how am I going to even, what are my options? How am I even going to get better? I don't have the money for this. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. And then the anger, I think, for me was also that I felt like my mind and my body were betraying me. You know, I felt like you've had this traumatic or multiple traumatic experiences, and then it's like your baseline leaves you. My sleep in particular, I would have these really bad flashbacks when I went to sleep, and so that's part of why I would drink, to numb that, to shut that off. And it didn't necessarily allow me to sleep through the whole night, but at the time that's what I felt like was working for me sometimes. So you go down this really interesting road of figuring out what does and what, you know, doesn't work for yourself. And somewhere inside you know that, you know, I know that doing something like that isn't good for myself in the long run. And I was so grateful to have found hypnotherapy, for example, because that finally got me to the point of being able to sleep through the night. It was very confronting. It was very difficult, but every little step, every little thing that you try out, and it may in some way help shift things for you.
I think undoubtedly. I think how can it not? And it might just be a case of you've got this big mountain and every little step is a shovel, you know, but you'll get there. And if you make no movements to go forward, then I have to say that for me, alcohol and weed were really, really effective for decades. I wouldn't say that I was an alcoholic or that I've ever had recreational drug problems, but I certainly was a weed smoker, and I did that to alleviate how it felt to be me, because this hypervigilance, it's exhausting.
So exhausting.
And booze and weed, I think they both depress like the nervous system. But nothing goes away, it's all just suppressed.
Yeah, that's right. And I guess the thing that I started to realize after a while, particularly with, you know, the drinking side of things, is that because alcohol is a depressant, it was helping me get to sleep, but the long-term effect of that is that it was kind of putting myself into more of being more susceptible to being depressed, you know. And often people that have PTSD or have experienced trauma, that does kind of come into effect, because so many aspects of yourself kind of get out of whack that depression is often an underlying current that comes along with it. So I have acknowledged that I haven't been doing myself necessarily any favors with that, but at the same time, it's what I knew at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, there's something to be acknowledged from what's working, what's not working, and at the end of the day, we all know that our body requires certain things, you know, just maybe you're not giving it to it, but proper nutrition, good sleep, you know, good choices. And so once you're able to make those decisions, once you feel ready to make those, your body will be ready, I suppose, as well.
Yeah, and you don't even have to make those decisions all at once. It can be like incremental, step by step. Today I have a 20-minute massage instead of a bottle of Shardy. Or today I'm going to cook myself a delicious meal, or today I'm going to go for a walk even though I don't feel like it. All those tiny little incremental ways to make yourself feel better, they put fuel in your tank, and the weed and the smoke like depletes the fuel from your tank. You know, it doesn't have to be all or nothing.
No.
I don't think.
And it doesn't have to be all or nothing, and it doesn't have to be, with this condition, it just doesn't go like that. It just doesn't go, okay, I've sussed this out. Now, you know, it really does go, you know, and the sooner you're able to allow yourself that, to accept that, to honor yourself by understanding that you're not going to be perfect, you have a mental health condition, that it's hard work, it's exhausting, but you're ultimately the person that's going to help yourself get to a point where it does become manageable. Yeah.
And the body wants to be in balance. I believe that. We are designed to thrive.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So to any of those of you out there that are thinking about Reiki, I know I highly recommend it. It was helpful for me. you might find that it's too confronting or perhaps not the right therapy option for you, but just understanding what your options are is like the first step in figuring out how to get yourself the help that you require. Yeah, so thanks for your time.
You're welcome, Lee.
Okay, we'll do some Reiki.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with Reiki, as you've experienced before, people can put their hands over you and kind of manipulate the energy in that way. I do that, but I also like to touch. Especially I find I tend to, it depends on the person, but around the head and around the back of the neck. If that's something you're comfortable with, I can do that. And if
Yes, please.
Okay, cool. And then usually before I start, I just say a little prayer, and I ask my spirit guides to kind of help me in this healing activity. And I call it a healing activity because I feel like the energy that comes through is a bit more universal than just one specific type. So you can do the same thing, you know, if that's your belief framework. You can shut your eyes and ask your spirit guides or any healing spirits to assist you, and this is something that we do together. Like, you may not be consciously participating, but I believe that you are. So yeah, so I'll just probably say a little prayer off camera, or and then get started. And you can do the same thing, just kind of relax, shut your eyes and sing to yourself, and I'll come back and I'll just give you like a little touch on the hand like that, and I'll get started. Okay, so I'm just going to get started, and for me, the Reiki's just kind of morphed into something spiritual. I don't really know why, that's just kind of how it is. So, yeah.